On today's episode of Mark Fisher Outdoors, we're going to be talking about which hook do you use on your drop shot? Do you use a long shank hook or just a short shank hook and nose hook your baits? Basically, do you nose hook or do you thread your baits when you're drop shotting? There's a lot of theories about what it does to the action of the bait, whether the hookup percentage is better one way than the other. And we went into the pool to look at this, and I got to be honest, guys, I think I'm changing my mind here based on what I thought before and what I saw when I actually watched these baits in the pool. You might want to stick around and see this. Welcome back to Mark Fisher Outdoors, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you tuning in Monday through Friday. Wednesday is our Underwater Wednesday episodes, and we are in the pool, and we're talking about drop shots, and we're talking about the way you put your bait on the hook. What hook do you use? Do you use a longer shank hook? Do you use a little short shank hook? Do you nose hook your baits, or do you thread your baits through? Like I said, there's a lot of differing theories about which one is best to do. I've heard theories that if you just nose hook it, it gives your bait a lot more action. Well, we're going to take a look in the pool to see whether it's true, and if it does give more action, is that action lifelike, or does it seem kind of not so lifelike? The other issue is your hookup percentage. Is your hookup percentage better when you have a longer shank hook? Now, obviously, that's not something that we can test in the pool. However, a majority of fishermen that I talk to will just pretty much readily admit or concede to the fact that a longer shank hook, you have a better hookup percentage. But the opinion is that the shorter shank hook and nose hooking your drop shot baits typically gives it better action. Well, let's look at some of these baits, and we used 3 different baits when we were in the pool. I used a Robo worm. That is a drop shot bait that I think everybody is familiar with. In addition to the Robo worm, we used a Yamamoto Shad shaped worm. That's a big drop shot bait as well, and one that, and when I say big, I mean that's a popular drop shot bait as well. And so we've got that both nose hooked and threaded. Guys, while you're looking at some of this video, if you wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe button. If you aren't a subscriber, we'd appreciate that. We bring out Underwater Wednesdays every Wednesday, whether we're on the water or in the pool showing you underwater footage. We'd really appreciate it if you would hit that subscribe button. Those Underwater Wednesdays go along with our content that we do Monday through Fridays. And the last bait that I used and that we're going to show you is a Dream Shot. And with the Dream Shot, we used I wanted a bait that was bigger than any of the other baits. And so we used a 5-inch Dream Shot. I think the 5-inch Dream Shot shows that for sure if you're using a bigger bait when you're drop shotting, you absolutely want to use a longer shank hook and thread that bait through the plastic. It gives you a much more natural look. Now, the thing that I will say is my experience drop shotting is the bigger the baits, the less likely they are to be successful. When I'm drop shotting, I like to use smaller baits. Doesn't matter whether it's like a 4-inch Cinco or a small Yamamoto Shad-shaped worm, or for example, the Robo worm or something along those lines. Those are typically the types of baits that I have the most success with when I'm drop shotting, is a smaller bait. I am telling you guys, I have always believed that nose hooking was a more lifelike presentation than threading. I used to thread all the time, and then I went, I just kind of got talked into going into the nose hooking. But when I'm looking at these baits that are threaded, the reality is it seems like having that hook and threading it keeps the bait more level longer, which is the more natural presentation. You want a bait that appears to be swimming or hopping or something like that, as opposed to kind of being on a 45-degree angle hanging there from nothing. And I'm almost liking the threaded baits and the way the threaded baits look more than I am the nose hook baits. Granted, there are some baits when they're nose hooked and you give them a little pop, a little jiggle, they do look very realistic and very lifelike. But I don't think that the threaded baits look that bad either when you're doing that. So this is really, to me, this is very interesting, guys. And I want you to take a look at these and, give me your opinion on whether or not first of all, do you nose hook or thread? And the reality is, do you think you're doing the right thing? Or based on what you're seeing here, are you going to change? That's what I'd like to know. So this is interesting, guys. Like I said, I love doing this channel because sometimes I see things in putting together episodes that make me start to question or think about the way I'm actually out there fishing. Thoughts that I had like, oh, I'm doing this the right way, I'm going to keep doing it. And then I get in the pool or something like that, or I read a comment from one of you guys and I go, holy cow, I got to change what I'm doing. This might be one of those. I'd love to hear your opinion about it. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. We'll be back tomorrow for another episode of Mark Fisher Outdoors. Take care, everybody.